wrestling promoter throughout North America. I kick every one of their asses. Fraud, they're messing with me. In a court of law, I took on the United States of America, and I kicked her ass. I took on WCW, and it took me a while, but I kicked their asses. Not because I was an asshole, no. Ask me, Mr. McMahon, what's your secret? More than any one quality that makes me the successful man that I am, ruthless aggression. So I want to know here tonight, as you stand here on my ring, which one of you has that quality? Who among you has that one single ingredient? Who has enough ruthless aggression? Yeah.
PPA, no info for the DEA, federal agents.
Backbone Wrestling Network, welcome back to the Ruthlessly Aggressive Podcast, episode 93, pay-per-view. We got SummerSlam 2003. It's the St. Anger show. Logan, you a big Metallica guy?
My brother is like the world's biggest Metallica fan, so I do know a lot of their stuff. I like them pretty good. But they're not my favorite by any stretch or anything like that. But I do enjoy them.
Yeah. I feel like if you grew up in the South, there was a lot of like uncles or like your dad's friends and stuff like that, where it was like by default, you were just exposed to a lot of Metallica if you're of our age group. Mm-hmm. So I was definitely into them. There's definitely some like really cringy like videos of me like where they'd be like, "What's up, Jake?" And I would be like, "Metallica," and it was like really corny.
You were just trying to be cool.
Trying and failing, but
no, you're the coolest.
Skateboarding and stuff. Anyway, let's bring in. We have a rare third person in the booth, Logan, for this show. Because it is such a monumental show. It's the SummerSlam. We brought in Mr. Matt Ferrell. How you doing, Matt?
Hey guys, glad to be here. Good, excited. Let's to open up this bag of probably poop that we're about to
probably poop.
Make a mixed bag, we'll say that.
For sure.
The elimination chamber pot. Anyway, but right off the bat, so one reason we brought you on, Matt, is because you're a big fan of the show, and also because you actually do kind of a compendium to this show. Would you like to explain what that is? It is a true labor of love.
Yes. Because I'm a completist and spend way too much time doing this, I go through with you guys and watch the heats and velocities and do what I hoped is a comedic write-up of them, because if it was serious, that mean I'd have a problem. And I just, posted on my blog, which you could see on my Twitter account at Ferrell Comedy. Ferrell like Will, Ferrell. And so every 2 weeks when your show drops, that's where the blog will be. If you want to see what's happening with Funaki, that's the place to be. If you want to see what's happening with Steven Richards, that's the place to be. And honestly, sometimes it's better than what's happening on the main shows, but at least it's always fun because you can tell Vince isn't paying attention and it's just off the rails, and it's in a good way.
Competent is better than Raw, so
it really is.
Right.
It really is right now.
And I find the matchups at least look a lot more interesting than a lot of what you get on Raw. I'd rather see Funaki versus Steven Richards than Christian versus whoever for the 15th time. Christian versus Booker T for the 12th time.
Yeah, I'll get disappointed when I see someone come out for a squash on Raw or SmackDown. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to get him on this weekend.
Oh, no.
I'm like, oh, Shannon Moore wrestling? Dang it.
Who, since you've been doing it, who would you say is like the C show MVP so far in this era?
It's Steven Richards,
Really?
because it's goofy. He currently is saying it's Stevie Night Heat. In his head, he is the commissioner. And there are usually a couple backstage segments that are just off the rails, silly, and his interactions with Al Snow, and honestly, Al Snow on commentary, dirty secret, I like it. I think he's better than King right now.
Mhm.
It's him and Coach on Heat. Josh and the Cat on Velocity leave a little bit to be desired, but I think Steve Richards is the MVP of the C shows. And there's like guys like Jindrak are fun on there.
Mhm.
If you wonder where Albert was in between WrestleMania and SummerSlam, he was losing on Velocity. And so it's a nice 20 minutes of, once they cut out the recaps, of just kind of like a fun wrestling show.
That's awesome. Not to put you on the spot with it, I don't know if your spreadsheet's up, but what is kind of like your highest, how many snowflakes have you gotten out? Like what's it top out at? Like I know you get some at least 3 stars on
There's
there.
a few
sometimes.
threes. I don't have them off the top of my head. Basically, if you get the world's greatest tag team down there, and you throw them against a couple cruiserweights, that's going to be a good one. That's happened 2 or 3 times. Random cruiserweight. The Velocity is going to have the higher snowflake level, and Heat the more shenanigans. Although Velocity has turned into some shenanigans, as Bradshaw's saying that Shaniqua and Shelton Benjamin are in fact the same person. He keeps saying they look so much alike, and I'll give you one clue: is the one thing that they have in common that Bradshaw sees.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes!
Yep.
Brown eyes. They both have brown eyes.
Correct.
That's awesome. But yeah, that's awesome. Everybody should check it out. It's great. I'm very interested. Logan has always batted around, besides his other 400 pods, the idea of doing a C show pod. So
I'm here. I'm here when you're ready.
Yeah.
If they had a few more hours in the day, if they had a few more hours in the day, or days in the week, Logan might be able to swing it at some point.
Yep.
Maybe when we wrap this up in 2040.
Yeah, whenever we finish one of our other pods, I might add it to the docket. We'll see.
Sure. But tonight we have not a C show, but in the big, I would think at this point, probably still, I would consider this the number 2. Is that fair to say? Number 2 show of the year, or should be. We'll see how it plays out with this one.
Yeah, it depends on how you feel in the Royal Rumble every year. But yeah, this was definitely kind of always shown as the second biggest show for sure.
Right. The big 4. So we'll go into it. We are at SummerSlam 2003 from Phoenix, Arizona here. So it's hot as shit, I'm sure, for this. Sometimes you do a SummerSlam in somewhere that's like, maybe to give these guys a break, do it up north somewhere, but not here. I'm sure it was like probably 110 degrees in Phoenix in August. But we are still in heavy patriotic mode as we have Lillian singing the national anthem to show how much WWE loves America, etc. It kind of throws you off a bit when you're used to like modern times and stuff, because like they'll have Lillian out here singing the national anthem like in what's essentially like a bikini or something, or like a bikini with like a short skirt on. Yeah, like where nowadays they go for the more like elegant gowns and stuff like that for these big events for sure, and just for all of them. So that kind of always throws me a bit when you're used to the modern stuff to see Lillian out there like in this tiny little like bikini top thing.
Yeah, like if she ripped the skirt off, she could go swimming in like a swimming pool after the show was or after she was done, So, but yeah, definitely very weird to kind of see her dressed like that, singing the national anthem.
Right. And then we get the before we go to our great melodramatic WWE opening, we get the classic Brock F5ing the Shark ad. That's one I always remember. I always love that one. It's a really awesome ridiculous ad.
Absolutely.
And then we go into, I said, Logan, we had Callum McDougall narrating the open here, as it's like someone with a very like similar accent. But it's your normal, good, melodramatic bullshit that they usually do. Like this is, I could always keep some of these. I can remember what they say, but I kind of check out sometimes because it's always just like some real epic. It's well done, but And this was a point where I was like, oh yeah, this is Saint Anger show, except we don't get to hear it on here. We'll talk later, but we get the awful dub. But
horrendous.
right. Matt, any thoughts on any of this opening stuff? The Brock F5ing the shark.
Well, I mean, it's the best way to stay safe in the ocean is to perform wrestling moves on the most perfect killing machine God has ever made. It's the only way to stop him is, of course, an F5. And yeah, it is kind of, it didn't with the national anthem from Lillian and like it and the weird dub, it didn't feel like SummerSlam. It felt like here's just another show, and maybe that was just me. I don't know. But maybe it is that I'm used to more of the modern things and everything is big and a huge thing. And this was just kind of like, hey, here we are.
Yeah. Right. I think you have a point, though, as we get into this kind of opening in the undercard of this. I think the undercard has a similar vibe as we get to, our opener is going to be the Dudleys versus La Resistance, which we've been discussing, obviously. Haven't been a huge, yeah, they're my favorite. Now, I have been a little hot on it. It went from completely sucking to being a little bit better lately because I think they've kind of been limiting La Resistance in the ring and having them do more like promos and just kind of talking shit. So that's, I think, been a little bit more effective for them because it doesn't expose them in the ring and how bad they are in the ring. So that's been good. And I'm not excited. I was going into this thinking this what you would think of as an opener. I don't think it's going to be the hottest opener, but get this in there, get it out the way. I wasn't expecting it to go very long, and it really doesn't. We get Devon controlling early. He gets Bubs in there to hammer on Grenier, so they kind of get an early little face shine segment. I kind of like the trio woe on the balls there. I thought that was a nice little move. Gets the crowd hyped. The French take over. They do their normal, like, basic weak strikes and kind of sucky offense, like the bear hug. That was what I was like, God, these guys really suck right here when he hit the bear hug. I was like, this is rough. But the Dudleys come back with some slams. They do the was up, and it's looking like it's all Dudleys. This is going to be their night. But before they can get the pin, Grenier pulls the ref, and then a, quote, cameraman comes in and wipes out Devon with the camera, and then throws one of the I couldn't tell who it was, which one of the Frenchmen it was, but he throws one of them on Devon, and they pick up the cheap heel win here. So they have still not named him, but this is, of course, going to be Rob Conway. They haven't said it yet, but they had set this up a little bit as he was the fake serviceman that we saw in Raw. So that's him dressed as a cameraman here. So he's kind of working as the third for the La Resistance to come in here and cheat and give them the win. But to Matt's point a second ago, this did not feel like a SummerSlam opener. This felt very much like a Raw match. Like, and based on what we've been talking about, that is not a ring endorsement to be a Raw match, because that means it was like a 2 stars at best. So that's what I went on this, Logan. I went 2 stars. It felt very much like a generic Raw match. Definitely nothing that's going to be like a hidden gem, like greatest pay-per-view openers by a long shot.
Yeah, I definitely went gentlemen's too as well. They still have not changed the tag title graphics, so we still have the old World Tag Team Championships. You know how much that always makes me mad whenever we watch one of these matches. But they haven't updated the style of the belt. But I liked how the Dudleys kind of started out attacking him in the aisleway. I feel like La Resistance does the right thing and gets their ass kicked for a good portion of the early part of the match. And even when they get on offense, I feel like it was short enough to not be super offensive. I feel like I saw Renee had a pretty nice spine buster at one point that I thought looked really good. Devon obviously is the hot tag. And he actually kicks out of their finisher. They do that like double spine buster. That's been their finisher since they've been a tag team on the main roster. And he actually kicks out of it. So I thought that was a pretty big spot to let him do that. And like you said, chaos ensued. And then obviously Conway comes in, uses the camera, and gets him the win. I don't know if you're going to go into the interview afterwards, but I have some thoughts on that if you don't.
Sure, we'll get to it. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll get to it after.
I got you. Go ahead.
Matt, what did you think? What do you think of this opener?
Yeah, like you guys said, Gentlemen's 2. It's a Raw match. It's not even like a Raw main event. It's like the 9 o'clock. I forget when Raw was. It was at 9 to 11, and so the 10 o'clock hour match at that point. It's just basic. Dudley's playing the hits. La Resistance trying not to screw up until the Master of Disguise shows up. I'm curious to see the next night, after Soldier and then Cameraman, like, is he going to be a cop the next time or an ice cream man? Like, I'm like, as far as we know, Conway's gimmick is just he likes to dress up.
He was a conquistador at one point too.
There we go.
That's true. There you go. That is true. We have like no background on him at this point.
No, he's just
Just
a dude who gets lost on the way to a costume party and gets involved.
Right. Like, yeah, like we don't even know if he's French or not. Like, is he, but yeah, Logan, what did you think? Because you seem like you have some thoughts on this fired up Bubba promo.
So, Coach talks to the Dudleys after the match, and I think Spike had come out, or I want to say Spike was there for some reason, but he interviews him, and Coach says, they had a really good plan that, using the cameraman and everything. Bubba accuses him of being a sympathizer for giving credit to La Resistance for the plan that they had, before Bubba then saying he gives them credit for the way that they won the match. So, like, he shits on Coach for being a sympathizer, for saying they had a good plan, and then he says they have a good plan. So, just a fucking idiot for sure.
Total shut your mouth and you're talking to me.
Yeah. Just because you said it, you're a fucking French sympathizer. But I'm going to say the exact same thing, and I'm going to sound smart. So, yeah.
Dudleyville, USA, baby.
Yeah, and so just to wrap up this match, again, I don't think this is the worst thing you're ever going to see, but we'll get to it kind of as the show goes on. When you think about some of the names that were left off of this show, I think this as an opener becomes, especially when you're not going to do a title change or anything, you just kind of keep it simmering with what's basically a Raw match. I think it's more egregious when you think about some of the names that we don't have on this show as we continue through the card. There's some big names missing off of this that I think could have done a lot better than Bubba and the Dudleys and La Resistance. But we go to Christian as he approaches Eric Bischoff backstage as Eric is practicing karate. And this is where we get into that Eric is actually going to have a match tonight. And now correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we had any, like, this was not told to us on Raw, right, Logan? I don't remember.
I want to say
it was.
When,
it was.
Yeah, I want to say it was when Austin gets him to sign the contract for the Kane match.
Oh,
yeah, so he signs the contract for the Kane match, and I think the winner of that match, which obviously Eric won because Kane walked away and got counted out, but Eric won an opportunity to face Shane at SummerSlam. So I do think that that's how it kind of came to be. But they don't really promote it as much, kind of going into it as they go.
My pea brain got lost in the convoluted Kane, RVD, Eric Bischoff, Linda McMahon storyline.
You got to take notes. You got to have a scorecard to keep them all straight.
The hexagon of suck.
But anyway, Eric blames Austin for Christian not having a match because Christian's complaining. So like I just said, this is, again, he hasn't been lighting the world on fire. I haven't been too impressed with Christian lately, but he is your IC champion. He is not on the show. So again, some notable omissions from the show. But anyway, we talk about how Eric, he's all dressed in his karate gi because he's going to be facing Shane McMahon tonight. And then Christian wants, of course, to know the details of him banging Linda because that's the kind of guy Christian is. So, yeah. Any additional thoughts on this Eric warming up from you guys?
No, just creepy Eric.
He's
going to reveal to the world what happened in the McMahon estate. So we'll look forward to that.
Yeah, nothing like admitting to your sexual assault crime.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. But with this, we will go to our first SmackDown match of the night. So this will be A-Train versus Undertaker, which we've covered. This story revolves around pretty much like Undertaker being pissed off that Vince would treat his daughter this way. And, so now he's going to face A-Train, who's like, at this point, one of Vince's flunkies kind of doing his bidding. presumably so he can have sex with Sable, as was revealed on SmackDown.
And to get off
kind of like
get off Velocity.
right.
That was
That's
the
the key to getting off Velocity.
Kunaki's going to look into that.
Right. Missing out on all these hot angles here, all the backstory. Anyway, so we have and yeah, Taker basically playing the sheriff here, like he's standing up for what's right because that's where he is at this point. But anyway, we have Sable actually comes out with Train here, and she's in a very revealing outfit. She has the looking pretty good, I gotta say, but she's got the hearts cut out of the sides. Her boobs are boobing, they're all out for everyone. Taker has his ribs taped, so kind of selling some previous beatings. Lots of strikes and clubbing blows between these two until Taker takes over. How about that for you? But of course, A-Train goes after the ribs and cuts him off with some stomps. Taker gets a few hope spots in here, like he gets a kind of a dragon sleeper. He gets the snake eyes. And I got to say, as he's going through his little sequence here, I do like at this point, I like Taker's, like, I don't want to say his 5 moves of doom, but like his little few moves he does mid-match every time. Like, I like the running leg drop on the apron's pretty good. Like, I like how he I just like how he speeds up off the ropes. I think he does some clubbing spots, but he moves a good bit. Like, he doesn't get too plodding. So we've talked about Taker's been pretty good in this era, and I kind of dug him in this match. But the ref gets pushed on the last ride as A-Train counters it, and then Taker's able to kick out of the derailleur based on the delayed count by the ref. The ref gets wrecked again, and Train goes for a chair this time, trying to cheat to win, but he gets it booted into his face, but he's actually able to kick out of that. So nice little spot there for A-Train, but he then needs to choke slam, and that's enough to put him away. So this was pretty much like a Taker versus a monster match. I thought it escalated pretty well. Like, they built to the finish decently well. And then at the end, we get Sable coming in to try and seduce Taker, but Steph comes down and, gets a shot in on her. And I have to say, Stephanie's outfit, not as revealing as Sable, but I don't think Stephanie was trying to be outdone by Sable when she came out. That's all I'll say, because she was Stephan on this one. But I went 2.5 on this one. Again, I didn't think it was amazing, but I thought it was a good, solid kind of Hoss match. Taker versus a monster. Gets Taker on the show, gets him a win. Nothing I'd go out of your way to see, but also not offensive. What'd you think, Matt?
I liked it. I gave it 2.5 as well. I like, for the size of Taker and A-Train, the speed of the match was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, they were both moving in there. And the previous matches, like the mid-show main event, this was an actual SmackDown main event. So we are slowly going up the hill, and I liked it. Like you said, not going to tell you, hey, you got to check this out, but for an Albert SummerSlam match, pretty good.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Train obviously does a great job targeting the chronically injured ribs of Taker, like you mentioned. They have been injured for months, it seems, at this point. But Taker gets his ass kicked for a good bit of this. Train controls for a lot. But he turns to the most pure strikes in WWE history to gain the momentum back when he gets on offense. This is kind of one of the weird times where a ref bump really kind of screws the heel. It usually obviously ends up screwing the babyface. Right. But he hits the derailleur and the ref's too late to the count, and then he gets the chair booted into his face. So they kind of treated it a little differently than they usually do when that happens. So definitely a cool little part of that. I always think it's kind of lame when Taker just wins with the choke slam, but obviously he's selling the ribs, so he can't hit the tombstone or the last ride. And Albert A-Train's a huge motherfucker, so I don't think he's getting him up for the last ride. And then, like you said, after the match, he kind of starts to go for the last ride on Train, but then he ends up goozling Sable, and Steph comes out and gets a little bit of revenge. But yeah, I went 2.5 as well. Solid big guy match, and like we've said, Taker and A-Train been pretty good during this time, and Big Show. So the big guys are really bringing it on SmackDown for sure.
Yeah, I think they were kind of trying to protect A-Train a little bit, which was surprising to me. Let him look a little bit like, he kicked out of the he kicked out on that one spot when he got the chair kicked into his face, and then
Mhm.
like needing the ref, maybe kind of insinuating maybe Taker benefited from the ref bump. So interesting booking there.
For sure.
All right, we go to Coach. He's talking to some fans, and he's asking who's going to win the chamber, and it seems pretty unanimous that the fans are all behind Goldberg for this one. Even though the way the lady said this woman, it sounded like she said Boberg to me, which is funny. I don't know, like just the way she said it was strange. Probably just me, but crowd fully behind old Boberg.
At least she didn't say it like Bobby Heenan did on the last Russo pod that we did, and he called him Goldborg like 4 or 5 times.
Goldborg.
So, yep.
All right, and then we go into the long recap that maybe I should have paid more attention to, and I would know that this match was already scheduled. But we get the recap of all the Shane, Eric Bischoff, Kane, RVD, Linda drama, soap opera that's been going on. You can listen to the previous 12 episodes and get a decent idea of what's going on here. But it's all pretty convoluted, and I'm gonna be honest, for how much time it's been dedicated to it, especially since Shane showed up, I think it's been kind of boring, like not the most interesting stuff. And it's really off of Linda and Shane. They are giving some like very weak McMahon performances, I thought, through this. But anyway, we'll get to the match. So it's going to be Eric versus Shane here. Of course, Eric has the karate gi on because he is a lethal weapon like Steve Blackman. He's a black belt here. He gets on the mic before and starts kind of taunting Linda and says, "Why would you want to have why would you want to have hamburger when you have filet mignon?" Referring to himself, and then he talks about how whenever whatever he did with her, it happened again and again. I felt it was almost like a Val Venus reference when he was doing it. It was very Val Venus, like again and again. So Shane comes out fired up. He beats up Eric, throws him out of the ring for a few minutes until unexpectedly his savior's Coach, as he comes down and rocks Shane with the chair. At that point, Eric grabs the mic and makes this a no DQ so it can continue. Coach starts roughing up Shane, throws Shane into the steps. Shane starts fighting back a bit, and Eric then gets on and says to shut off JR and King's mic so Coach can call this. Coach calls to the ring as Eric nails Shane with a karate kick. Coach is mocking JR, doing the classic JR call. Shane begins to fight back, and then we hear the glass break to wake up the crowd. Coach tells Austin as when he comes down that he works for Bischoff, and Austin doesn't matter. You can't tell him what to do. And then he starts to tease Austin that he can't hurt him because he can't do anything unless he's physically provoked. Cue Shane to push Coach into Austin, which of course counts as him being physically provoked. So then Coach gets his ass beat. He turns JR and King, Stone Cold does, turns them back on. Shane pushes Eric into Austin so he can get a stun or two. And then Shane puts Eric on the table, on the announce table. And then, of course, he's got to jump off of something. So he does. He jumps off the top rope and goes to the table with Eric. And then they count the 3 from there. They share some beers. And then there we go. Crowd's fired up. We get Austin coming to share some beers. So I ended up not ranking this as a match because honestly it was more of an angle, because once Coach comes out, it becomes a whole other thing. But you guys were talking about it before we started recording, but it is definitely a logical heel turn by Coach because he's been treated like an asshole this whole time just for doing his job. So it does make sense. It's also a good turn for him because I think to make him a heel is good because he is a heel, but he's not like this type of heel that Coach is presented here. He can be like Eric Slacky or whatever, and it's going to give him some energy because him as just like the straight-laced babyface announcer wasn't doing him anything. Like the crowd wasn't into him. He had no emotion. He was being mocked by King for having no emotion or opinions or knowledge of anything. So I think this is a positive turn. Only thing I'll say about this is like it did seem like it dragged on a long time. Like the sharing the beers and everything. I know you want Austin out there because it gets the big pop and gets the crowd more invested in this. But I think dragging it this long and doing the beers, given it's SummerSlam, it's a pay-per-view, it seemed very much like a TV angle rather than something worthy of SummerSlam to me. Like this seemed like something you do on Raw. I get maybe the Coach thing adds like an interesting development, but this whole thing just felt like a Raw angle as opposed to big enough to take up this much time on SummerSlam. What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, it was very long. That's the thing that kind of goes against it. I did rank it. I only gave it a quarter star. I gave it a quarter star for the big leaping elbow. Really good
Mhm.
spot. But yeah, it's just a complete time waster. Definitely could have been done on TV, kind of like you said. Could have been a Raw segment, but I would not have killed this much time with this on a big show. I will say Shane doesn't exactly come out on the ramp. Like
Mhm.
once he gets in the ring, he kicks his ass pretty quick. But he doesn't like come out like somebody who's like the opponent like raped his mom like days before this. So
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
Right. Yeah, he
like
still does a little shuffle. Like,
yeah, he studs the dance and all that, and then he gets in the ring and kicks his ass. But obviously he beats his ass until Coach turns. Like you said, you know, King and JR, obviously he was replacing JR, but as soon as JR comes back, he completely shits on him. So Coach turning heel is not shocking at all, and I actually kind of don't blame him. But like you said, they cut the mic, and obviously Coach starts mocking JR doing that over the house mic. It was good to have Stone Cold come out, deliver some stunners. Coach does the classic "I'm not touching you" around his face. Um, and then obviously Shane uses Eric's limp body to smack Austin, so Austin can stun him. But yeah, the bleeping elbow is always fun to watch. He crushes Eric on that, so I will give it a quarter star for that. But it was a gigantic waste of time and not really much of a match, kind of like you said. What do you think, Matt?
It was a Raw now main event,
Mhm.
main event segment, and Coach should have turned heel the second JR came back and started chirping at him about replacing him. Like JR wanted to be quiet for 6 weeks while he was gone, with just no play-by-play. Let Jerry squeal the whole time. And then I got some thoughts about this match. So I get the whole thing is just to get the crowd to pop for Austin. Then after Austin stuns Bischoff, Shane just pin him right then. Like,
Mhm.
be done with it. The crowd's not going to get any louder than that moment. Then you can end on a high note instead of dragging it out a little more.
Mhm.
And Shane has been wanting to beat up this diabolical monster Kane, and Coach whoops his ass.
Right.
Mhm. Pretty easily, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe he should rethink that. Now I'm sure he's going to get a hold of him here, and it's going to be toe to toe because Shane McMahon whoop de boo, and
Yeah.
he got to do his. The whole thing was a mess. It was just to get the crowd to. They could have just had Austin come out and stun just some random person in the ring and saved us. It got the same pop and saved this for Raw.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It was too long. It was just way too long. It's weird. Like as we get to more, the things that are missing off the people, the faces you don't see on this show, and yet it seems like they're almost trying to kill time here. Like this could have been half the time. You go in, get Coach to turn heel, Austin stuns him, and just hurry up and let him jump off. If Shane wants to do it, just go to it faster. But it's so long. Like he already gets stunner, and he's got to drag him to the table. It's just too much. It's like I was checking out on this by the end. Like doing the beers and all, like it's not on a pay-per-view. So but we can look forward to heel Coach now, so we'll see how that develops on TV. All right, so we continue on. So as we've mentioned, as we get kind of towards this first third of the show, not very, I didn't feel like this was like had the gravitas of a SummerSlam for sure so far. But we'll see if the bigger matches can deliver. So we go to Flair backstage. He's talking to Orton, kind of trying to emphasize to him, what his role is tonight, which is pretty much to protect Triple H and make sure he leaves as champion. And Orton starts to say, like, well, what if? And Flair cuts him off and says, there is no what if. Triple H leaves tonight with the title. So this is something they've been building on Raw a lot, even though, as we'll see, it's not going to matter at all. It never comes into play really at all in the match, but they have been building it like it's going to matter, but it doesn't. I think it has to do with what their long-term plans maybe were at this moment that I don't think really pans out that way. But I think this is them. Like, I think there was like an original plan to maybe have Orton split off pretty soon, and like he becomes like like have his own faction or something like that, almost like a precursor to Legacy kind of thing, where it's like young superstars that were held down. Obviously, this never happens, but maybe that's what they were trying to get at.
Yeah, it could have been.
Mhm.
It's just to tease the idea that he
Mhm.
may screw him somehow. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously too early to do that. They've only been together for not since about WrestleMania, maybe a little bit before
Mhm.
WrestleMania. So
Right.
obviously too early to do that. But yeah, maybe put that seed in your head that maybe he may split off and want to be champion himself at some point. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, just to plant that seed for sure.
Right. All right. With that, we'll go to our first, not our first, but our first potential banger SmackDown match of the night. So that's going to be our U.S. title match. It's going to be a fatal 4-way with Rhino, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and Tajiri. So I don't know why I said it like that. Tajiri.
Tajiri is how JB Noble used to say it, I think. So
Tajiri. But obviously this has been going on for a while. A lot of they were previous tag partners, and the gist of the story really comes down to Eddie's just kind of being a dick, but he always gets the last laugh. He's the champion and he kind of always gets the upper hand. So this match kind of sets up for maybe that same sort of storyline. But we get an early advantage by Rhino just crushing everyone. I love Tajiri right at the beginning going for the pin right in front of Benoit. Like, it's obviously not going to work, but I like Tajiri in this whole beginning part. He was just like the opportunity, like constantly trying to get the pin, even though it's like obviously not going to work. We didn't get into like, I'm not going to call this move for move, but just what I would call like good fatal 4-way action. These are all very talented guys, just like trade momentum, very physical, had a good flow to it. No real teamwork I found in this, which maybe they could have played into, the relationship of all these guys, but they kind of just played it like they were all going after each other. Eddie and Tajiri had a reversal sequence that I thought was fantastic, where Eddie works him into the lasso, and then Benoit gets Rhino in the crossface, and they kind of do like a stare down where like not a stare down, but like they both have him in the submission at the same time, and they're like trying to decide who's going to tap first and should they bail out. And of course, again, going with how this is always played out, Eddie bails at the right time because he knows exactly when to bail out and go for it. But Benoit ends up putting him in the crossface. I like the near fall as he Germans Benoit into a roll up. I thought it was a really good near fall. Things break down to chaos as Eddie gets Rhino to gore the belt, while Tajiri has Benoit in the tarantula. And then I thought picked up really well in the home stretch. And then Eddie gets the frog splash on Rhino while Benoit and Tajiri are preoccupied. And then he ends up taking this. So great action. I thought it was a well done defense for Eddie. It continues to build his character that he's just a little bit more clever than everybody else. And so he knows the way to work this match, even though he's got to beat three. He's against three other guys. He kind of makes sure he picks the exact right spots for this. It was just good fatal 4-way action. I don't think it ever got to the point of being like great or anything, but this was sort of a SmackDown match, but like in a really good way, like how you get these really good matches on SmackDown. And I think having all this star power in the match kind of elevates it and makes it fit on the pay-per-view. So I ended up going 3.5 on it. I thought this was very good and a very entertaining and a good defense for Eddie just to keep his momentum going. What'd you think, Matt?
I mean, I had it at 3.5, but listening to your describing it, I just literally bumped it to 3 3/4 because I was like, oh yeah, that was good. So I liked Eddie at the beginning, bailing out and letting them come in and then breaking up the pinfalls right at the last second and then getting right back out of the ring. At the beginning, it was just like an interest. Like I've seen, like the guy wakes, then they walk away and just stand there like, I'm so sly. But I liked how Eddie was like sneaking around and trying to find his moment, but kind of doing still the same thing, saving his energy. It was fast, and the counters, you could tell these guys had probably been working tags and house shows this whole run here and did this in their sleep. It was the first like really good match of the night, and so I wonder if maybe part of why we all liked it so much is it's kind of like a glass of water after working out in the yard all day. It's
right.
It was good. I don't know. Maybe if I watched it in a vacuum, I wouldn't like it as much. But
yeah, I mean, I had a lot of the same thought. I like how Eddie kind of played it smart early, like you said. letting the others kind of beat the crap out of each other, and he would come in just to break up the pins. Obviously, it eventually catches up to him, and I think that's when he does Tajiri does the pin on Eddie, because they kind of chop him back and forth, and kind of a triangle as he kind of gets his ass beat by all the guys. I like the little dueling submission spot that you talked about, Jake, where Eddie kind of has to decide whether he wants to wrench his submission even harder or break up Benoit's. I think Tajiri actually ends up getting to the ropes, so that's why he kind of bails out. But I think he also kind of decided that he was gonna bail before that. There was a sick German suplex that Tajiri hits. I can't remember who he hit it on, but it was a really good German suplex. There was a cool spot where Tajiri was kind of in the Tree of Woe, and Benoit just kind of climbs over him and hits the diving headbutt on Rhino. And then obviously Tajiri and him kind of take each other out, and Eddie takes advantage like he does. But yeah, 3.5. I went the same as you, Jake.
Yeah, these guys are also talented. It's such a match like where it's easy to get like lost in the weeds and people missing their cues and stuff. And these guys are all just pros and hit everything. It was really, really fun stuff.
I mean, like Matt said, I'm sure they ran this like all the time on the house shows. I'm sure they did this. They could do this match in their sleep, like you said.
The lasso, man, that's like that's like an underrated move. I love that move. It's so good. From a passive. Yeah.
Yeah, that and the Hot and Pain are two SmackDown submission moves that are not used enough.
Yeah, they're sick. All right, so we wake up a little bit there. All right, let's go to HBK. He's taping up. He's getting ready to for the chamber, and then we see some footage of the murder of Zach Gowen, and we find out this is something Matt covered here, and that would be Matt Hardy, who mocked him on the Sunday Night Heat going into the show, because obviously Gowen had to forfeit, and so Matt Hardy's just comes out and he drags him, calls him a novelty act, and says he hates to take a forfeit win, but he guesses he's just going to have to do it. Obviously, he loves taking the forfeit win, so just come out and talking shit about Zach Gowen. Not sure. I don't remember if or how much we have left of old Zach Gowen, but it seems like they just want to keep this in case they want to run it back with Matt Hardy here. Any additional thoughts, Matt, since you're the Sunday Night Heat expert?
Well, I couldn't find the only copy I saw was from SummerSlam. I could only find the match from Heat, which, by the way, was Rey Mysterio defending the Cruiserweight Championship against Shannon Moore, who actually lost the night before on Velocity to Kidman, but somehow that turned him into number one contender the very next day. So we could lose to Rey as well, I guess. And Rey botches the finish. In case, spoiler alert, still click the link on the Twitter for the blog, and please click an ad while you're in there. You don't even have to buy it, just click it. But so there was your Heat before the show. And it was nice to relive Zach Allen getting slaughtered. And I vaguely remember that he's going to get slaughtered again. So I don't think we're quite done with him.
Gotcha. Glad to see that Rey Mysterio guy made it to Heat. He's been working. Yeah. He's been working for it. Maybe next year he can get on SummerSlam.
Yeah, it's not like he didn't have like a 4-star match on SmackDown like less than a month ago. But I don't think we have too much more Gowen, but I do think he resurfaces a little bit.
Yeah, the 2 minutes was the same 2 minutes it took Shane McMahon to put Eric Bischoff on that table, climb to the top, and do a stupid elbow drop thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, but with that, we go to a detailed recap of Brock and Kurt's their friendship that has turned to a enemyship, I guess, as Brock has turned heel and aligned himself with Vince McMahon. And again, we've covered all this, but I think as we talked about in the build to this, the Brock heel turn has really helped this a lot. It's really benefited from it, makes things a lot more clear, because certainly the bromance thing was not working at all. The last few weeks have been a lot hotter. Makes Brock evil, gives Kurt something to fight against, and the crowd wants to cheer Kurt too. So, all right, so we get in. I thought it was an interesting placement, but I guess when I think about everything on the show, it kind of makes sense because you have 3 matches left. You know the Chamber's got to go on last, and then it kind of gives you a buffer match. So it just felt a little strange, like given these two, that this would be at this point in the card, but it makes sense. We get Kyoto explaining the rules to just kind of give it that big title match feel with the ref explaining the rules. They do the whole amateur wrestling thing to start between these two, as you'd expect, but that stops pretty early as Brock gets dumped and starts throwing shit around, pissed off. He grabs a belt and tries to bail, and so Kurt comes after him, and they brawl in the entranceway, which is, throughout this whole match, and like his new character here is like them putting in not like some pure, like, it's not like he's honky tonk man or something, but just a little bit more like not cowardly heel is not the right way, but just more standard heel qualities. Like he's not just a beast, like he's more like he tries to play mind games. He's a little bit chicken shit and, aligning with Vince and everything. So they're kind of going with this. Like that's the iteration of Brock we're in right now, which I think has pros and cons. Like I think you can do a little bit more with that, but it's also maybe not what everybody wants to see from Brock. But anyway, he starts wearing Kurt out with some slams. He locks him in a choke, which I thought Brock looked gas at this point. I feel like he was trying to catch his wind when he put Kurt in that long choke, because he was looking like modern Brock with the sweat just like pouring off him.
Went full purple.
Taz does a good job pointing out that he's working the midsection, so wearing out Kurt's ribs. I thought that high cradle suplex by Brock was beautiful.
Yes.
But then we see Kurt starting to show some life here. He's working in some hope spots. I thought his comeback was really well done. I loved him selling the beating. Like he goes for his Germans, but he's super slow at him because he has like muster up enough strength. Sean probably won't like this, but I thought this whole match had shades of like a Rude Steamboat. Just like these two like people who were like chiseled out of stone, just like it was a little methodical at times, but it was physical enough that it worked. And I think it really picks up in this final stretch. This counter here, like Brock goes for the F5 and Kurt turns it like into a tornado DDT, was like fantastic. It's such like a natural, logical counter to that move. I thought it was great. He hits the angle slam, but Brock's able to kick out of that. I love Kurt. He before the angle slam, he pulls the straps down, and then Brock kicks out, and then he's like getting fired up again. So he just puts the straps on just so he could take them back off. It's like he's in a video game and he went to do the taunt again. So he just put them back up. The ref gets bumped on a counter. And I know they're using a lot of ref bumps on this show, but I think they're at least making them look kind of natural. Like they don't look too contrived, but Kurt locks in some like wild submission. I don't know what to call it. It's like he's upside down hanging off of Brock, but like wearing down his back and has his legs hooked around his throat. I thought it was good because it just kind of looked janky and desperate. But here's Vince. He's wearing his casual shirt. He's got the like short sleeve little like Hawaiian shirt on. So he gets a chair. He knocks Kurt out while the ref is still down. We get Brock getting up. He's able to give Kurt the F5 even on one leg. Kurt kicks out. Always good. Like 2 and 7/8 kick out from Kurt. The crowd is super into it. Brock goes for a second F5, but Kurt's able to counter that into an ankle lock. Another fantastic counter. He's just the master of these. He's so good at them. And I was shocked with this. The finish is that Brock actually taps out to the ankle lock clean. And to insult to injury, after the win, Vince ends up eating an angle slam to the chair. So they're really into this on this night of like doing that little extra to pop the crowd here, like giving Vince the angle slam, having Stephanie come out to slap the table. But a hard-hitting physical 20-minute match. I think at certain points it was maybe a bit slow, but I think it built so well to the finish that I kind of bought it, and the physicality was okay. Like, I'm not expecting these guys to be cruiserweights, but by the end to it, I was fully into what they were doing. And I liked that this match had a little bit of a different vibe than the 19 match. I thought, like I said, it was a little bit more slow and, grinding in a good way. Only thing I didn't know is, like, I don't know how I feel about Brock losing so clean right after the turn. Like, but I also get, based on where we're going later in the show, that you want to get a good, clean win on SummerSlam for like a face champion, given how the show's going to end. So I guess maybe that's the rationale. But I did think Brock tapping was kind of weird. But 4 stars for me, Logan. Great match.
Yeah, I went 4 stars as well. I like the Angle kind of outpaces Brock early and frustrates him, kind of like you were talking about. Brock actually just grabs the belt and starts to walk away like he's real pissed and doesn't want to do this anymore. Brock gets a sick gorilla press he just kind of chucks him to the outside. He didn't really aim him anywhere. He just kind of throws him. and it's pretty sick. Like you said, I love casual male Vince with his beat shirt and his dress slacks. So that's always a good look for him. Even though I will say I thought his shirt on this night was a little bit more Hawaiian than it looks, but it wasn't quite the shirt I was remembering. But that may be another pay-per-view. The one-legged F5 is absolutely sick. I really like that spot. I like the ending where Angle kind of continually pulls Lesnar away from the ropes after he gets to the ropes, and Vince just kind of runs around the ring begging him not to tap, and then he taps. Really good physical and technical match, like you said. They just have great chemistry against one another that was shown in the Mania 19 match, shown in this match. Obviously, the triple threat that they have with Big Show, they have a ton of chemistry in, and we'll see them obviously face each other again on SmackDown in the coming months. Obviously, like you said, shocked to see Brock tap, but I think they kind of played into the idea that, you know, he kind of held it on illegally in multiple points, so he really wrenched it in for a good amount of time because the ref's down at one point. And he wrenches it in, and obviously Brock gets the ropes multiple times, but he continues to wrench it on because there's no ref to kind of do a rope break. And then at the end, he obviously continues to pull him away from the ropes as he could have gotten out of it. But I think that's kind of what they were playing into. But yeah, definitely weird to see him tap right after a heel turn. But I think, you know, Kurt pulling him away illegally multiple times was kind of why they did that. And then the Angle Slam to Vince was absolutely sick after the match. But yeah, 4 stars. Just these guys are awesome separately, obviously, but they're awesome together as well. So, Matt, what'd you think?
I loved it. I would say 4 1/4. It was hard hitting the whole time. I thought Vince looked great as the king of the shuffleboard court on Royal Caribbean. And his shenanigans like worked well. Like you would think these guys are having a hard hitting, realistic looking match, and then here comes Vince with a chair and you're all his histrionics, and somehow it's kind of like a yin and a yang, oil and water, but working. And I enjoyed the finish. I was shocked that after Brock tap when the ref was down, I thought that was going to be the visual for Angle and that Brock was going to win the title back. But no, he tapped the second time, and I'm okay with if you make, because it's not like Brock was a chicken shit. I mean, thing was locked in forever and got to the ropes. And he's a heel to, you know, learn to fight, to come back better the next time, you know. So I'm okay with it because you just let him crush a couple people and he's already back to scary nightmare fuel.
Yeah, exactly.
Great match. Awesome. SmackDown picking up the slack here in this with 2 back-to-back good to great matches, as we'd expect based on what we normally see on SmackDown. So a great win for Kurt. Crowd's into it. Good little mid-show title match. So we continue here. We see Goldberg. He's getting hyped for the Chamber. We have the Arizona Diamondbacks in the house here. And then we find out, I didn't even know they were doing the Diva search. I know it wasn't like a thing at this point that they were putting on TV, but apparently Jamie Cope, or was her name, I believe, won the Diva search, apparently. Don't know who that is, but
yeah, I think the next year is when they really start putting it on TV. So
right.
But good to see Luis Gonzalez came to the to SummerSlam. I think King says he got ejected from the game earlier that day. So he wanted to get to SummerSlam early, is what King said. So but yeah, good to see old Luis Gonzalez there.
Yeah, as a big Guardians back then Indians fan, seeing my old buddy Carlos Baerga sitting there next to Luis Gonzalez, looking like he was on his way to go impregnate Pitbull's mom. And I was just like, hey, I was like, is that Carlos Baerga, but from the future? Like, he looks ridiculous. He is like, I'm sorry to focus so much on Carlos Baerga, but this is what's going to happen. So he's got like a black dress shirt, but with the sleeves cut off.
Oh, God.
And the tiny little barely there, clear sunglasses,
Uh-huh.
and like the tiny, just glued against the side ear holder. Oh, it was amazing. Go back and find it. It's he looks ridiculous.
The fantastic 2003 baseball fashion.
Exactly. Oh man.
All right. We carry on. We have a this is a weird one because so we're going into the Kane RVD match, but the recap is weird because a lot of this Kane stuff hasn't really focused on RVD all that much. Like RVD's sort of been like a side player in all this. And so by result, like the match doesn't seem like as much of a deal because the main issue is between Kane and Shane at this point. And like RVD just kind of shows up every now and then to go after Kane. Like, I don't know. So it's a weird match, and it kind of comes off in the video because a lot of it, RVD's not even in there. It's like Kane and his reign of
Kane
terror.
hitting other people.
Yeah. So it's just this whole thing, the whole build to this has been odd. It's like they're just doing this as a holdover, which comes through in the match because RVD doesn't have a whole lot of steam here because you don't really buy him as much of a threat. Like you definitely get the feeling that Kane's set for a bigger deal with Shane later on. So it's kind of a mess. But we go into it and the Fink tells us it's going to be no holds barred. So they just throw that at the last minute. But this whole match, it was a lot of Rob using his hashtag unorthodox style to get an advantage. And there were some good spots here. Like, as we get on later on, there's like the leg drop on the barricade. I thought he was laying his offense in. He was pretty physical with this. He's always a little sloppy, but I don't mind it. Like I kind of like Rob Van Dam's sloppiness. It's like I don't know. It seems more like physical sloppiness than him just not knowing what he's doing. But anyway, it's never enough to really keep Kane down throughout this match. Like Kane, like really is sort of no selling, not completely no selling, but it's like RVD does some like devastating shit and Kane's like back up like immediately. So it's a lot of Kane wearing him down. RVD takes some shots in this one, like he takes the ladder to the face. JR is really throughout this whole match for a reason. JR was really on this whole thing about Kane being smelly and stinky, like he says multiple times about Kane's hot, stinky breath, and like it was
I made that note as well.
Right, this hot, stinky breath. He smells like what a weird angle to take on this. But as we get towards the end, Rob gets a chair and he does his key spots with it. He hits the Rolling Thunder. Like this, for example, like hits the Van Terminator and like Kane's like up. And then so he does the coast to coast, which usually this is like a kill shot. I'm guessing he didn't connect on it super well because the camera like did a weird like quick cut away from it. So I'm guessing as he does sometimes on that, he kind of botched it. But either way, I mean, Kane is like up immediately after that. Like he maybe sells it for 2 seconds after like he took two brutal shots to the face with the chair. And so they end up on the outside. Kane tombstones him on the stairs and then like rolls him in and picks up the win. So it was all right. Like I didn't think it was terrible. It was like a decent little brawl. I think it's hurt by like just not having much heat to it because the Kane stuff is so like confusing at this, not confusing, but just like all over the place. And like it's not really focused on RVD, and the whole match didn't have that much intensity because you just don't really feel like RVD is much of a threat here. So 2 3/4, a decent little brawl, but not like some blood feud that maybe they would make you think it is between two former partners, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, if they announced it as no holds barred like during the entrances, that wasn't any part of the match before, so that made it odd. And Kane, no sold everything. And I'm more of a fan of the monster is a destructive monster, not a can't be hurt monster. I guess to each their own. But honestly, this was my least favorite match on the card. Even better than Dudley's and La Resistance, at least that was quick. This just kind of was meandering and you never really got into it. RVD's hitting him with all this stuff like, how do I keep him down? And not in a, I'm so angry at this guy for, nearly burning me alive, dousing me in gasoline.
Right.
I mean, kind of just like, oh no, he's a monster. Instead of like, I must kill him. I don't know.
Right.
It didn't seem to fit. The match didn't fit the vibe and it was just didn't work. The chemistry was off. What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, I probably am a little bit closer to what Jake thought. Like I said, it gets made no holds barred when everybody's coming out to the ring. There was a pretty gross clothesline that Kane hits pretty much to start things off. I think he gets hit with a couple kicks and then he crushes RVD with a clothesline. There was kind of a dangerous spot at one point when RVD got knocked up the top rope and almost hits the steps. Like the steps are like propped up against the barricade, and he almost lands on them and like could have crushed himself. So that could have been scarier than it ended up being. I like the Van Deminator, and then he completely whiffs on the Van Terminator right after that. I made the note, like you said, Jake, that JR was fucking obsessed with Kane's breath throughout the match.
Take your hot breath.
Yeah, it was something for sure.
Well,
but the
guys,
tombstone.
you gotta get off JR on that. I mean, Hogan did nothing but talk about Andre being a big sticky giant.
Oh yeah,
that was
and
90,000
the giant as
people
well.
in Silverdome. Okay, so we're just waiting for that Silverdome. Kane, RVD, 93,000.
There you go.
Gonna happen.
But yeah, the tombstone was sick on the steps. I love that he hits it on the outside and then drags him all the way in the ring and still gets the 3 count. I would go like 2.5. I thought it was a good enough little hardcore brawl, but I could definitely see where Matt's coming from.
Yeah, the booking kind of screwed this up. If you're gonna go this way, it's like it's decent, but the booking is so weird. Like if you're gonna do it, like kind of what Matt was saying, it needs to be like an all-out like blood war, like where he's literally trying to kill him because he's like a deranged monster. Like you know, you need to have all the like like we see on TNA, Logan, right? The best matches. You need to go like that, balls to the wall with the violence and the craziness. I think to kind of juice this up, and they don't really do that. They just do like a okay. Right. To me, this match is all about how much you dock it for the booking being kind of goofy. You know, like if you say, I think in a vacuum, it's like a decent little brawl, but it's, if you take into account the build and all, it's just all, it just felt like they wanted Kane on the show and they don't want to do the Shane match yet. It's all kind of stupid. I don't know what else to say about it, but
don't worry, we'll get plenty of Shane matches over the next few months. So.
Okay.
We'll get
all right, we go to Eric Bischoff backstage. He's very upset about everything that's transpired. He doesn't want to be interviewed. He's all bloody. Linda walks in very stoically, as she always does. He gets very nervous and apologetic towards Linda, and she just walks up and like slaps his ice pack into his face very slowly and robotically, as you would expect from Linda. Like
terrible.
She looks like a slow motion. What is it, like Sock 'em Mock 'em robots or whatever?
She's like an animatronic. She just
like oh, Linda. All right. If you guys have anything else on this, we'll get to the.
I just thought Bischoff looked like he had been cut up by glass. Like he had like all these like little cuts.
I was wondering that too.
Like he tripped and fell in a bush or something. Like
like thorns.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what he was bleeding from, but I don't know.
Yeah, like he took a stunner, and he went through a table, but yeah, and it looked like the fakest blood too. It looked like jam. Like it was ridiculous. All right. Let's go to our big main event here. We have Triple H staring at his belt backstage while Flair gasses him up. No pun intended here with Triple H. All right, so our Elimination Chamber, this has been building for a while. Is going to be Nash, Goldberg, Randy Orton, Triple H, Chris Jericho, and Shawn Michaels in the chamber. We get the video package. Kind of mentioned this at the top. This would be your Saint Anger video package. Which unfortunately we don't get on the on Peacock. We get some horrible dub that was it was like wow, like I think it vaguely was trying to sound like Saint Anger, but like if it was played like if you just use like the keyboard, like on a keyboard you put the guitar sound and press that, that's what this sounds like. And I have to say, like in WWE fashion, like typical, like this video package makes this whole build seem a lot hotter and more intense than what it really was, as Logan and I can attest to. Like, it was all right, but it wasn't like this would have you think this has like been, this wild build between all these guys. But
well, the fact that it's an Elimination Chamber in general is completely forced, like we talked about. Obviously, it's due to injury of some sort, but definitely makes it seem a lot more
groin injury here, as he's got his The infamous compression shorts he has on, the little bike shorts as he comes out with this, looking very inflated. Inflated, deflated, however you want to look at it. But I thought JR had a nice tidbit here about Triple H saying he's on like a SummerSlam losing streak, like that he hasn't won a SummerSlam match since the Rock match at 98, which I thought was like he hasn't won one in like 5 years. And Goldberg comes out, he's real hyped. The crowd is super into him. And I think he's a little bit too hyped because he trips a little bit on the entrance. He stumbles a bit.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty well-known one too. But and then we go to the chamber. So as this works, we'll have 4 people in the pods to start, and we start off with Jericho and Shawn, which I thought was a smart. I will say this for this match as I go through it. I thought the way they laid this out for the most part made sense. Like in the early going, like you start with Shawn and Jericho. They do some pretty good straightforward wrestling. There's a lot of built-in heat between those two. Like, they're going to be smooth and just kind of get you off to a good, like, warm things up really well. So I thought that was a good choice. The crowd is fully on the Goldberg train, though. Like, as during his entrance and the early going when it's Shawn and Jericho, like, they're chanting for Goldberg. Like, they're into him, right? And that says a lot because it's been a weird run for him. I find just in the past month and the build to this match is where he's really picked up steam because his debut in the first few months were a little rocky. Like, he had the stupid Goldust shit that's famous. Like, you have all that. So the crowd is finally starting to get behind him. But Orton comes in and he immediately lands a crossbody on HBK. They say it on commentary, and the grating, that metal grating on these early chambers is just brutal. Like every time they take a bump on that is like looks so fucking painful when they land on that the outside. But we continue, and Orton kind of works as the opportunist throughout this. Like he's sort of picking his spots as HBK and Jericho go at each other. But like right here on the grate, like Orton takes a backdrop on the metal, and it is like I cringed at it. It was terrible. Nash is in. He wipes out all the heels. He rams Jericho into the chain link. He levels Shawn to show like they're not going to have any alliances throughout this thing. But as that happens, it comes back to bite him as Shawn turns and hits him with a super kick, and that allows Jericho to pin him, and he gets like absolutely no reaction to being eliminated. A logical person to eliminate. He was definitely somebody who was just thrown into this match so they could fill up all the pods, basically. So at this point, we actually get Triple H getting into the match, but he immediately gets super kicked right back into the chamber. So this is a pretty clear way of them, like you said, Logan, the chamber's forced. A lot of this is to protect Triple H because he's injured. So this allows him to like sit back and take a nap for a little bit longer as he just got super kicked back into the pod. So Nash, pissed off Nash after being eliminated, powerbombs Jericho and Orton in a rage. And so we get like a tone change. I found like right here where like, it was kind of hot, but now everybody's like all reeling because Nash powerbombed them, or in Triple H's case, he just got super kicked. So it kind of slows down here as everyone's got their ass kicked at this point. And in a great sequence, Goldberg finally gets in and just cleans house on everyone. This was kind of like the highlight of the match. Like the crowd who's been kind of dead throughout this wakes up as Orton and Goldberg. Goldberg comes in and starts taking everybody out. He spears Orton. Jericho takes a brutal press into the chain. Triple H just sitting in the chamber is so odd as everybody else is just getting their ass beat, and Goldberg's kind of ignoring him. But I guess it makes sense because he's like waiting because he wants to get rid of everybody else first. And maybe the most iconic spot of the match, Jericho gets speared through the pod, and it looks absolutely brutal, just like gets crushed through the plexiglass. Jackhammer on Shawn, he's gone. I should say earlier, Orton was taken out with the spear, and then he hits a jackhammer on Jericho, and so he eliminates everyone. So just an awesome run for Goldberg here, just completely annihilating everyone. And now with this, we go to our final stretch, as now it's obviously going to be just Goldberg and Triple H. So we get the one-on-one match in theory that this probably should have been from the beginning before the groin injury. Ric Flair's trying to hold the pod closed so Goldberg can't get to it. So Goldberg just kicks it in. You have Flair like kicking and screaming on the side, trying to hold the door with his feet. So we get a little bit of Triple H getting his ass beat. Goldberg drags him along the chains. You could tell Triple H has like no mobility here. Like he does like a kick at one point. He can barely lift his leg. He does take a few bumps like on the grate, but a lot of it is just him getting rammed into the chain. Goldberg goes for the spear, but I don't know, was it Flair threw it to him or something, but some kind of way, yeah. Flair throws him the sledgehammer, and Goldberg, he gets clipped with it as he goes for the spear, and Triple H gets the 1, 2, 3 off of that. Crowd completely deflates. And then they do a full like Great Value 4 Horsemen thing on him, gang up on Goldberg. They handcuff him to the cage, hit him with the sledgehammer, beat his ass, taunt him with the belt. He is bleeding like crazy. And I want to say the story behind this is that I want to say like Goldberg bladed himself, but it wasn't, he barely did it. And like Flair came in. I don't know if this is true, but I think there's the story behind this that like Flair came in and like bladed him extra. And so that's why it's gets a lot worse as they go on, like the bleeding. But so this is obviously like one of the if not the most infamous like Triple H Reign of Terror things that gets talked about a lot, is that Goldberg should have went over here. And it's like the booking of this is something you hear about more than the actual match. I think the match, like I said at the beginning, it's well put together. Like I think everything up to like, given they're protecting Triple H, I thought all the stuff with the sort of supporting cast was well done. Like the way they booked it when they have Goldberg come in and wipe everybody out, I thought that was all good. But I think obviously the Triple H stuff drags us down. Like the awkwardness of him sitting in there. Like I know he's supposed to be hiding, but it just comes off as weird. And then of course the finish. Like I don't think it's just him winning, but it's the way he does. Like that he just gets clipped with the sledgehammer the one time, and you can just get like a flat like 1, 2, 3 off of that. Like after he gets absolutely no offense. Like Goldberg looked like a monster. Like if Goldberg kicks out of the sledgehammer, I think everybody would have bought it. Like because he just looked like a monster. The argument here, which I'm sure we'll discuss, is, I think their side of it is that, ideally we wanted this to be a singles match, so we want to give Goldberg a singles win down the line. And so if you do this, then you could have the chase and Goldberg goes after the title. Now, obviously, the other side of that is the crowd's super into him. Triple H is fucking injured anyway. Just give him the goddamn belt. To me, that's the right move. I think it's like, a lot of what we go through in this is like, does this hold up? Was it really as egregious as it was at the time? To me, it is. I get the whole, like, you want it, but this is, to me, the crowd's into him. This gives you like a good marquee moment for a big show, having Goldberg win it here. He takes out everyone, let Triple H face him when he's better. Like, I don't get it. It's not that complicated. Sure, is it as ideal as him winning in a singles match? No. But given all their options, to me, that's the most logical way to go. This was fucking stupid. I don't know what else to say. Matt, I've talked a lot. I'll go 3 1/4 on the match, but the booking is a disaster.
Oh yeah. Even if that's your plan, like, hey, we're gonna give him the 1-on-1, next month. It can still be 1-on-1, but with Goldberg defending. Like, call an audible, even if that was your plan. Like, the crowd was a frenzy. If the plan is you're giving him the belt in a month, give it to him that day. Like, it wouldn't change anything. And I enjoyed it a bit. I liked the one the previous year much, much better.
Yeah.
It was fine. And then what you got to kind of ask yourself is, if you throw in the Goldberg Triple H, and then they're obviously building to Shawn and Orton and Nash and Jericho, like in 3 separate matches, what the show ends up looking like. Probably that's where you lose that Dudley's and La Rez match.
Darn.
Yeah. Oh, rants.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and Shane and Eric's probably like way shorter for sure.
Yeah. I mean, with the original plan, they just got an audible. It was fun when Goldberg was tearing through everybody. And it's so sad to see Nash go with his tight crew cut. It's so weird. It's so like off-putting. And one thing I wanted to ask you guys, I thought about when I was watching this, I think all 6 guys in this match, when they get up and they look in the mirror in the morning, honestly, based on what their individual definition of wrestling is meant to be, probably looks in the mirror and says, I'm on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Like each one of these guys probably believes that. Like, and I think that's kind of cool that But I don't know if that probably ever happens ever again. Or you're gonna get 6 guys who honestly believe that. I mean, if you look at it that way, maybe all right, 3 and a quarter now from the mirror. The mirror thing gives a quarter point, but it was fine. I think you probably should have had Kurt and Brock main event, but I guess it's really hard with the chamber. I don't know how long it takes to put get one of those up and down.
It's 2 miles of chain, you know.
I mean, yeah, even if you're putting it down, 15 minutes a mile, you're in trouble.
It's a struggle.
Right. It's another hard one to rate because it's so hard to like rate the match in like how much with the booking, right?
Yeah, I went 3. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Jake, if Triple H is hurt, just give Goldberg the belt. I mean, you're going to give it to him the next month anyways, we'll get to. But yeah, I mean, Triple H, this is a big Triple H head case situation where a lot of people shit on him. He thinks it'll mean more if he beats him one-on-one. So, well, if that's the case and you're hurt, have a one-on-one match, have him kill you, and then you can come back and, have a more competitive match next time. But yeah, I mean, if he's hurt already and he's going to win the belt soon anyways, just let him do it here. Seeing Nash kind of go out as quick as he did was kind of disheartening. Obviously, I know that he's not coming back. He's going to do the Punisher, and then I think he actually has surgery on something after this, so he's gone. He shows up in TNA, so we did get him on Highway to the Impact Zone eventually, so that always makes me happy, and we actually still have him on that show for now, but it did kind of make me sad that he got eliminated kind of as quickly and as easily as he was. I do love Triple H stepping out of the pod and immediately getting hit with Sweet Chin Music.
Right.
I love that spot. But yeah, he hides and hides. Goldberg with the spear through the pod on Jericho is one of those spots that always, sticks out in your brain when you think of the Elimination Chamber. Just to think how poorly that could have gone at certain points, because when he hits the spear initially, it doesn't really break. He kind of has to do another surge of a push to kind of get it to break through. And even more when he quick kicks the plexiglass in on Triple H, it kind of doesn't break like I think he wanted it to, or I think he thought it would. So it kind of ends up being like really sharp pieces that could have like stabbed Triple H. So definitely a couple of really, really, kind of dangerous spots there. But yeah, the one like clipping of the sledgehammer on Goldberg, kind of putting him down, is kind of weak. He could have at least like maybe hit a pedigree on top of that, or got him back up and nailed him again. But if Goldberg's going to kill Michaels, Orton, and Jericho like he does, he's got to do the same to Triple H, and it just completely the crowd just completely deflates, and it's bad.
Yeah, like
and then make him look weak after the match, beating him down. So just not very good booking, but I did enjoy the action of the match for the most part.
Yeah, it's like that's not like Goldberg is not. They're trying to do it like Goldberg's not that kind of guy. Like that's not how you. Like he's a guy you got to strike while the iron's hot, while the crowd's into him. Like you don't do the whole like try and get sympathy on. No, like Goldberg is like he's like Ultimate Warrior or something. Like you do it where the way you do this is let him get hit with a sledgehammer, kick out, even though that's ridiculous, and let him like Hulk up, and then he still beats Triple H, and the crowd would have lost their shit if he like kicked out of the sledgehammer shot. If anything, that's what you do. Like I think and that's why I hate to ding the match too much, because I think if you just change that finish, I think this whole match is like a really extremely well done match. Like between all the guys come in the beginning, they do their thing, they hold it down, Goldberg comes in, and then you still can protect Triple H by having him nap in the pod the whole time when he gets super kicked. Like you said, Logan, it's a good visual, it's funny, like to see him get kicked. Like to me, that all makes sense for what you're doing, trying to protect him because he's injured. It's just the finish makes no sense. Goldberg's the guy, like when the crowd's into him, you give it to him. Like you can't do all this, like you're overthinking it. And I think the main issue is nobody believes the story that like they actually cared about what was bad. Like, oh no, we won a singles match. I don't think anybody believes that that's honestly what they thought. They just like didn't really, like it's almost like their arm was being twisted to like make Goldberg champ or something,
Mm-hmm. And I told y'all this before the pod, but the time from when he kicks in the plexiglass to get Triple H out of the pod, I didn't realize it was such a short gap between that and the end of the match. So they don't.
Mhm.
I mean, Goldberg kicks his ass for a minute or two, but it's pretty quick to get to the
Mhm.
spear and the sledgehammer shot. So, yeah, they don't even let him like just throw him around and bash him into the. I mean, he busts him open, throwing him into the chains, but he doesn't. He doesn't really kick his ass enough to make you think that
Mhm.
like I don't know. It was weird. I thought I remembered it being longer and it just wasn't. So like from like getting out of the pod to the finish is like maybe 2.5 minutes, maybe not even that long. So just weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's SummerSlam. You want to end SummerSlam, I feel like, on a cool note, like not a giant heel beat down for 10 minutes, like where the baby face that the crowd has been. It's not. But
Yeah,
anyway,
that's what made it
yeah,
feel like a kind of B pay-per-view for sure.
right. So that wraps up the show. So it's a weird one too because it's a very like up and down because there's some really good stuff on here. You have some, like we said, I think the two biggest knocks on this are the Raw undercard feeling just like not really worthy of SummerSlam, just feeling like kind of stuff you would see on Raw, and then the deflating finish. SmackDown, I think, buoys this show to being pretty solid. Like, you have two very good to great matches. I think the undercard is kind of a wash for the most part. Like, it's nothing like you don't get anything that's like completely horrible. But and to me, like I've been saying throughout the show, it's hard not to notice who isn't on this show. Like you have no IC title, you have no Ray, no World's Greatest Tag Team. Like to me, I feel like we could have found a spot on the show for some of those people. And I don't know if it's because they wanted to balance it between Raw and SmackDown or what, but whatever. But kind of threw my hands up and just went 6 out of 10, like slightly above average. But it's a weird show to try and rate overall, Matt.
Yeah, I think your rating, like the three of us who went through every show, is lower. If you just pulled this out and watched it, you would probably give it an extra point and a half. I'm gonna say 5.5 out of 10, with a ding in it for being you're judging the big four harder than you would
right
an off-month show, and just felt like storyline advancement. And I mean, I guess RVD and Kane, is that the only story that ended here today?
Yeah, probably for sure. Yeah, because you think the Dudleys are going to go back after La Resistance. Taker's still going to be with somebody of McMahon, like a McMahon associate. Kurt and Brock's going to continue. Obviously, the main event, you don't end anything because Goldberg's probably still going to come for Triple H. So yeah, you don't finish anything really here. So you're right.
So it's just like kind of like a meh. And SummerSlam shouldn't be a meh, It's Judgment Day and it's meh. You're like, okay, it's Judgment Day.
Right.
Yeah, I would probably go with Matt and go 5.5. Not the best, obviously. I remember it more fondly just because like I said in previous episodes, I had the VHS growing up, so it's one I watched a good bit. But yeah, the fact that like Matt said, none of their storylines really end. And the end is so deflating. It just kind of takes it down. But as always, SmackDown raises it up because Taker A-Train was pretty good, and the other two matches were good to great, like you said. So, but yeah, SmackDown definitely helps it out. But that main event is just a brutal booking decision for sure.
Yeah, it's a letdown. It's a real letdown, but not shocking given that the ratings we have for Raw coming into this were pretty abysmal. The shows have been pretty rough, so not a huge shock. They're just in a rough period. But last thing I'll say is just, it's just been a big thing that I feel like going through the podcast, the Ruthless Aggression Era, is this Triple H run, and always saying like, has this been overblown? I think this one's pretty egregious. Like it's known as being egregious, and I think it holds up as being pretty stupid and shitty. So. But their episode, let's go through some awards. I think these will be pretty obvious. So best match, I think we're all going with the title match with Brock and Kurt. Yep. Let's see. Worst match, I'm gonna probably go. I mean, it would probably be Shane and Eric if you count that as a match, but I'll probably go Dudley's La Resistance.
Yeah, I'd go Bischoff and Shane.
Yeah, Bischoff and Shane count. That's it. But if not, for me, it would be RVD and Kane.
Gotcha. MVP of the show, I think I'm going to go with Angle.
Yeah, I would go with Kurt as well.
Yeah, kayfabe, it's Stephanie McMahon for booking the SmackDown side way better than Raw.
Yeah.
But it's definitely Kurt.
Despite recuperating. Yeah. So, so I think that's pretty much it for awards. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. If we were to say who was the best showing, I think SmackDown easily. We kind of said that.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Gotcha. But that wrapped us up for this very confounding show, SummerSlam, as I kind of expected it to be. Thank you, Logan, for joining me, as you always do. And thanks, Matt, for joining us. Everyone, check out the Ruthless CEE, correct, Matt?
Yeah, I'm blatantly ripping off your title.
It's all good. I enjoy it. It's a good companion. But I will drop at this point. I'll drop in here because of this new gimmick that we do where we just have Shift doing the plug. So I will throw that in here now.
Backbone Wrestling Network. Scott Shiflett here to run down what we have to offer on this feed. Every Sunday, we got the cross up. I personally, it's my Monday morning ritual, guys. I'm enjoying work in the morning. I pop up the cross up. Logan gets me through the first hour of my day. He does a great job with that. Alternating Tuesdays, we stole both of these podcasts from the No-So Network. Don't tell them. We got the Ruthlessly Aggressive Pod and the New Gen on the Mission, where they cover two different generations of WWE/WWF wrestling. I really enjoy both of them. Every other Thursday, we have Highway the Impact Zone, which I think Jake's still learning. He must be taking like a 7-year course to become the master of TNA. I don't know, but hey, good on him for that, for continuing his higher education. And every other Friday, we have my podcast, Are You Smarter Than Vince Russo's WCW? Guess what? Anyone with more than one brain cell is smarter than Vince Russo's WCW. The monthly drops that we have here are YouTube Roulette with myself, Matt Souza, Logan Crossland, Jake Williams, sometimes Sean Kidd. He's been here more often than not recently. He's no longer a neglected father figure in our life, where we keep up with, we just watch random YouTube wrestling clips and see if we can break each other's brain. And then we have a Hidden Gem, which is Sean Kidd, myself, sometimes Keithy pops in, and Logan, where we find our hidden gems of wrestling. We have the Shit Take here that also drops with Sean Kidd and Keithy, where, it lives up to their name. There was some shit takes in some episodes. That's all I'm saying. I was listening to it. It was getting main roster angry. We also have Territorial, which is Sean's podcast, Labor of Love. He goes through different territorial eras because he lived through them all, where he's tracking down his favorite wrestling. This is what he does. He just spoke about Continental. Go find that episode by the time you hear this. It's an old episode. Go find it. It's something I never heard of before. It was amazing. And that's what we have here at the Backbone Wrestling feed. Thank you for listening and have a good night.
Thanks, Chef, for letting us know everything that's happening here on the Backbone Wrestling Network. Logan, anything additional you'd like to add before we take this home?
No, just check everything out on the Backbone Wrestling Network. I have a couple of other shows on some other feeds, but listen to Talking Docs on the Jenny Position on the North-South Connection. We just finished our serial killer season, so we will be moving on our next episode. I'll keep it close to the vest what we're going to do next. We'll probably announce it on some later pods, but and then check out Who's Next, the NXT pod I do with Andy on the Place of Nation Wrestling feed. But yeah, just check everything out on the Backbone Wrestling Network.
Awesome. All right, Matt, thanks for joining us. We will be sure to have you back on.
Thank you. I had a blast. It was my first full-length pod. I'm a man now.
You did great.
Yeah. There you go. You showed ruthless aggression, so you passed. We'll be back. All right, thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back in a couple weeks to see the fallout from SummerSlam 2003. So keep on listening. Thanks for listening. See you later.